Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest version of Tales from Outer Space, where I take an HFY story from somewhere around the internet and read it aloud for your enjoyment. All the relevant links are down below. Like, subscribe, and all that YouTube gumph to help this video and channel grow. Anyways, as always, I hope that you enjoy. I would just like to thank the following Tier 5 patrons and channel members for supporting the channel: Datamagnet and Bob the Dragon. Thank you again. And now, on to the story. Their planet is literally a hell, and we should probably nuke it. Or something. Written by Ortsmeiser. The whole mission was complete and utter bullcrap, and we all knew it. There is pomp and circumstance. One of these exploration probes that we had sent out actually found something. And we didn't know what quite yet. But almost all of our first contacts had been peaceful, and pretty much everyone ended up getting along. We were expecting to find signs of intelligent life in a more populated part of the galaxy. More stars generally meant more life. But it wasn't technically impossible or anything for life to be found more secluded. The probe had detected radio chatter in the middle of bumblefuck nowhere. It was pretty far from civilized space, so we'd have to use a rather imprecise jump drive to get into the general vicinity of the signal. But after that, we would have to track it down ourselves. Usually the first contact team will hang in orbit for a while, get to know the culture and learn the language. We give them the classic "we come in peace" spiel, and see how much it would take to uplift them to spaceflight, and all of that. There had only ever been one civilization that we didn't help, and that was because they were genocidal maniacs, and they tried to shoot us down even after we told them that we weren't hostile. Now we just knock anything they make out of orbit and carry on as normal. Anyways, so we jumped in around the most likely candidate. It was a trinary system. The two innermost stars were a bust, because there's no way that stars that big can have habitable planets. Next we tried a normal-sized red one that was orbiting the two, and there was nothing of interest. We were pretty confused, as there was only one more system in the region that it could be. Thing is, that system was a massive yellow star. There is no way that it was an uncontacted civilization. So we jumped in, expecting maybe to find an old satellite or a very lost ship, assuming that our probe didn't just malfunction and spit out a false positive. We looked around for a while, and no, it wasn't some lost idiot or a satellite. The third planet from the star was actually sending out some pretty intense signals. We kind of looked at each other, because this shouldn't be possible. My planet is what it was supposed to be like. Rocky planet orbiting a calm, normal-sized red star. One side always faced the star, making it into a nice tropical ocean. The other side was another ocean, dark and cooler, but still pretty calm. The middle bit was ideal. It had the perfect amount of constant sunlight, a perpetual warm ocean breeze. It had mild, predictable weather. It had a ton of oxygen for a very healthy biosphere, and a strong magnetic field that kept out the radiation. Simply put, stars this big just couldn't support a habitable world. I mean, it's technically possible, but there are so many things that would have to go right. It would just be too unlikely. And yet, here we are. We fly closer in, and we see a steaming pile of crap planet. It's enormous, for one. At least double the gravity of even the biggest habitable planet we know. Stepping on the damn thing would have broken every one of my legs immediately. Second, it was just fecking spinning all over the place at an angle. The temperature would have been inconsistent as hell. How could life evolve on this place? Not only that, but the atmosphere was terrible. It was so unbelievably thick, and it was full of nitrogen. We looked at the land, and the poles were covered in water ice. The equator is covered in vast swaths of barren, dry land. Land itself makes up only about 30% of the planet. Anything surviving there would have to be seriously adept at living without oxygen, because, percent-wise, it was only like half of what planets normally have. Anything living there would also have to be robust like nothing else, because just about any spot you pick will have to deal with both sunlight and lack thereof on a regular basis. The temperature fluctuations would alternating freeze and overheat most normal organisms to death rather quickly. Not only that, but there's a big-ass moon wreaking havoc on the oceans. Oceans and bodies of water just randomly flood areas. The oceans randomly form giant killer waves and destroy coastlines. The weather is terrible too. Storms get absolutely gargantuan. Giant funnels of tornadoes of death tear places up regularly, and static electricity builds up in the clouds and zaps stuff all the time. Also, it's geologically unstable, as an extra "feck you" to anything living there. There are mountains that spew molten rock all over the place and release plumes of deadly gases and sun-blocking ash. The crust is broken up into countless, constantly moving plates that randomly move around and shake everything up. And the craziest part is the godforsaken animals that live there. See, on a normal, reasonable planet, light is constant. After all, one spot on a tidally locked planet will be either always sunny or always dark, or somewhere in between. As a result, everything evolved to constantly be on the lookout for predators or food, because there wasn't ever any time that you could take a serious break. Lying down in the light surrounded by predators adapted for light is suicide. Lying down in the dark with predators adapted for the dark is similarly suicide. You have to be constantly vigilant, but brains chew through energy and produce a ton of waste. Too much, in fact, for the body to get rid of fast enough if you use every brain cell to the max. So if my brain was at 100% all the time, it would quickly have so much waste built up it wouldn't function properly, and that could be fatal. So the brains of all normal animals are limited to a reasonable speed. These hell animals, in a sense, get a bit of respite. They can rest during periods where other predators can't operate properly, which means they get time to clear the brains of excess waste. This means that they're all adapted to use their brains to the absolute max, all the time, except during breaks that they call sleep. When we first started decoding the radio messages that they were spewing out all the time, it was shocking. A normal human, the dominant species, can process information at more than double the speed of me. I'm pretty sharp as far as sapient creature goes. Just trying to read their comms after they were decoded and translated was a nightmare, because we got information far faster than we could deal with it. A human could easily hold a conversation with two of us at a time, and still get bored. And that's not all. When we were first observing them, we expected that they wouldn't see us coming, that we'd have a grace period to get everything figured out. Turns out, they absolutely knew about us, and they were scrambling to assemble thermonuclear weapons to hit our ship when we were bumbling around in front of their faces, not answering their hails. Their tech was far better than the level normally needed to get to space, but the sheer thickness of their atmosphere and gravity of their planet made it extremely hard to get into orbit. It's a good thing too, because they could be a serious threat if they got into space. First, there's the thing about thinking faster than any other creature in the galaxy. They could just shoot you before you had your chance to respond, and that would be that. They have insane heat dissipation. Their entire body is practically hairless, and they can just exude water to cool themselves in hot climates. This works so well, they originally hunted by running prey to death via exhaustion. They can outlast pretty much any animal they want in terms of physical exertion. Don't think the cold is safe either. They cover themselves in layers of thermal insulators regularly. They're endothermic, so they produce their own heat, and these insulators trap it. This is so effective that they can go just about anywhere they please. They're also pack animals, which means you're never dealing with just one. They can form a relatively cohesive groups in the hundreds of millions. They communicate visually and through sound, so they can transmit information extremely fast. They descend from tree-dwelling animals so they can follow you up most vertical surfaces if they want. They're adapted for running so they can outrun you if you try and run away on flat land. They can use their upper limbs as projectile throws, so distance doesn't always cut it. Their endurance and lack of hair makes them good swimmers too. They're used to stupidly high gravity, so they can tolerate anything you can. They need less than half the oxygen for you or me, so don't try to choke them out by screwing with the atmosphere settings on a ship. Funnily enough, in terms of strength, they're pretty pathetic on their planet. They can only kill most animals there by using tools. For us, though, it's a different story. The weakest of them are on par with the strongest of us. And things they can't do well at all, like smelling, sprinting, and heavy lifting, or hearing, can absolutely be done by the animals they've adopted. They've adopted, artificially evolved, and put up dozens of animals, canines, felines, and dozens of other animals that supplement their abilities. Simply put, they scared the shit out of us and violated pretty much every law of nature. We said hi and noped out of there. We didn't tell them where our planets were, and we didn't try giving them our technology. Their planet is a literal death world. They're in the near-perpetual state of war, and we should just either nuke the planet back to whatever sadistic dimension it came from, or placate the fuck out of them. Because somehow they reversed engineer one of our engines, and they have a habit of weaponizing just about anything they touch. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.